Hey guys, I'm Ryan and I've been wearing the Polar Ignite 3 this week, which was just released a few days ago. I'm going to give you a few reasons why I think this is a great watch to buy, and also a few reasons why I think Polar has perhaps missed a big opportunity here. In terms of the look and feel, I didn't realize how thin this watch is until I actually saw it in person for the first time. It's really sleek, and if you wear button-down shirts or long sleeves, then wearing this watch is going to be quite comfortable. Notice there's only one button on the watch. Why is there only one button on the watch? Not only that, why is that button on the left side? Is this watch mainly made for lefties? So these are the kind of questions I can't seem to figure out on my own, but it's a weird design choice if you ask me, because as a watch with a focus on fitness tracking, there are a lot of things you can do with extra buttons. You can even set multiple shortcuts, but with this you're restricted to only one button and of course a touch screen. Anyways, the watch really shines once you turn it on because they've improved the resolution to 416 by 416 pixels, which is the same as the Garmin Venu 2 Plus. And the colors are also really great in my opinion, very bright and vivid. This is a step in the right direction if you ask me, and they've even doubled the CPU speed. But overall, it's still not that impressive because there's still a lot of lag, especially when you want to enter or exit a certain view. If you take a look at the RAM and storage, this watch has only 5 megabytes of RAM and 32 megabytes of storage, which technically means you can't store anything on it, like music files. So it's not the same level as a Galaxy Watch 4 or 5, which I think have like 1.5 gigabytes of storage and is actually cheaper than this watch. So different watches, different specs. Here's something I'm not happy to see. The display is ever slightly curved, and this is really just a bezel area, but basically a curved display on a smartwatch with mainly fitness tracking capabilities is the wrong choice, and it can turn into a disaster. Having said that, it's really minimal and not at all as curved as a watch like the Google Pixel. The straps are silicone and the outer part has this rough texture to it, which isn't super important, but what's important to me is the locking mechanism, and this watch has the kind of locking mechanism I absolutely don't want to see on any watches. It just takes some extra effort to wear the watch, and for some reason with this watch it takes even more effort to put it on. Perhaps the thick silicone band and that rough texture on the outer side have something to do with it. But the watch, or its UI, is quite simple actually. There are only a few views available on the watch. You swipe right and you see the activity status for today, then your activities for the week, daylight data, then weather data, which I haven't set up. It just needs location permission that you can set up on the phone. Then there's the cardio load status, nightly recharge, today's workout suggestion, and finally music control on your phone. And by the way, when you swipe around, there is this subtle vibration, which is just a nice feedback in my opinion. So when you tap on some of these views, it opens a detailed view. For example, for the activity view, you get the current heart rate plus the minimum and maximum heart rate you've had today, and the total amount of calories you've burned so far today, and its breakdown. For the next view, which is the weekly activities, it shows a sum of all the activities like total calories burned during your training sessions, a total amount of time you've spent in different heart rate zones, and so on. And you can go through these sessions to check them out individually or even browse through previous week's activities. I want to get back to this view in a bit because I want to show you one of my absolute favorite features about this watch, which I believe is also a good reason alone to buy this watch. But one thing was that the step counting was relatively good, but still the step counting and the calories burned seemed slightly higher than what they should have been. But I thought it's perhaps negligible until one day, yesterday. Already in the middle of the day, according to the watch, I had taken 1,000 steps, more than my actual steps. That kind of error I cannot ignore, I'm afraid. So kind of disappointing, but usually problems like this can be easily fixed with some kind of improvements in the algorithm. But anyways, when you're in the watch face view, swiping up will show you the notifications, but I think the font is a little large and it could be smaller, so then more text could fit there. And when there are new notifications that you haven't dismissed, there is this red circle on the bottom of the screen bouncing up and down, which is a nice to have feature. And swiping down will take you to the quick settings. Here you can simply have a few shortcuts like the flight mode, do not disturb mode, and a few more things. If you want to change the watch face, you press the button and then it takes you to the main menu, and from there in the settings, you can find 4 different watch faces, and then you can customize those, like changing the color and what kind of stats you want to see on the watch face. So for example, I've set up mine to show the date, calories burned, steps, and my heart rate. The Polar Ignite 3 also has a sleep tracking feature, and to my surprise it's actually pretty good, or at least when it comes to the duration of this sleep and the time you fall asleep and wake up. So far it's been really good. What I'm not so sure of is the REM and deep sleep tracking. I can't trust that those are super accurate, but I can definitely still rely on it as an estimation of how much I've spent in each sleep cycle. Then there's the related nightly recharge, where you need to wear the watch to bed for at least 3 nights to get a baseline value. And what this is that it basically shows you if you've recovered well enough during the night's sleep, and it's measured based on your autonomous nervous system response and sleep quality. Thing is, you need to wear the watch to bed for at least 3 nights, like I said, but even though I've been wearing it for more than 3 days, the watch doesn't show me anything on the nightly recharge view on the watch itself. And yet another related thing is the Sleep Wise feature, which isn't available at the time of recording this video, and I believe it'll come out by the end of November. Based on my understanding, this gives you a forecast of your level of alertness for the day, and also it can give you an estimate of the optimal sleep time based on your body's circadian rhythm and a few other factors. In training, voice guidance feature is something that can possibly make this watch worth your money. It's again something that will be released soon, but basically you can have your phone with you, wear your headphones or earbuds, and by enabling it you can almost eliminate the need to constantly look at your watch to see your stats. And the information that you get with this feature are lap details, changes in your heart rate and the zones, start, stop, pause, and a training summary, whether the battery is low or the GPS connection is lost or the connection between your watch and the phone is lost, and so on. So this is a kind of feature that I haven't seen in any other smartwatches that I've reviewed from other brands, and it's an exciting one, and it can be really helpful if it actually works properly. I live in a cold environment, and if I'm going for a run, I don't need to roll up my sleeve just a little bit so I can see the watch. Although I have to tell you guys, just today I went for a run and it was freezing cold, and as I started the running activity, the watch crashed. But then the second time when I tried, it worked. Another really good reason to buy this watch that I promised to talk about is the energy sources feature. So whatever activity you do, once it's done, on the watch and in the app, you can actually see the sources of your energy that you've used during your activity. So that means carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So I've been training for many years, and it's quite easy for me to figure out how to tap into different sources of energy. But even for me, it was super interesting to see this. So for example, in this strength training session, I used primarily fat as a source of energy. And when I saw this chart, I could see when the intensity was changing, my body mostly used carbohydrates. And based on this knowledge, in my next session, I tried to modify my workout so that I could burn even more fat, and it actually worked. I'll also quickly mention a couple more fitness related features that this watch has. For example, the cardio load status can show you if overall you're productive in your workout and exercising or maintaining your fitness level, which means there's room for you to improve or not training enough or training too much. For me, it shows I'm maintaining, which is actually wrong. But that's only because I've tracked 3 sessions with this watch. Also, the watch will suggest you what kind of exercises you should do on any given day, either strength training, cardio, or some kinds of supportive exercises like stretching, etc. Yet another great reason to buy this watch is that it can track over 150 different kinds of activities, from open water swimming that we usually see in more expensive watches to group exercising. Somebody asked me before about the best watch for tracking Les Mills body pump exercises, and this watch can even track that. But here are some of my pet peeves about this watch. You can only wake up the watch either by pressing the button or raising your wrist. The other thing is that when you're in any view, you can't swipe down from the top to see the shortcuts, and instead you have to go to the main view, which is the watch face, and then swipe down. When you get a notification and you raise your wrist, it takes a second or two to show it, and it's really annoying. It's a shame that a watch with such a gorgeous display doesn't have many smartwatch features, for example, installing apps. And like I said before, you can't save your music on the watch. They could have been more generous and added more storage, so then you could listen to the music by connecting your headphones to them without the need for the phone. And there are only 4 watch faces to choose from on this watch. And related to the activity tracking, unfortunately it doesn't have running power, and the GPS, despite using a dual frequency band, can be way off. I mean, if you look at this running session, according to the watch, I was running in the middle of the highway or through the trees, despite not having any tall buildings around me. On the way back, it did a better job, but still not quite accurate. And about battery life, they claim 5 days. If I wanted to use the watch until the battery completely dies, I can see I could get 3.5 days, maybe a little more, But as an example, with 3 strength training sessions and 1 running session with GPS tracking on, the battery went from 100% to 20% in 3 days. So it really depends on what you do and especially how many times you use the GPS. But overall, it's pretty good for a watch with an AMOLED display. And if you like smartwatches with AMOLED displays, I suggest you watch this video next.